Coming back for Roottreemania. So after finishing the original story, which was figuring out the 50 family members that were direct descendants of Elias Roottree, we had an option to kind of continue the story, which I think we finished this one. So I want to go back to the menu. I think we were able to start a new game, if I remember correctly. Yeah, we finished all the loose ends. I don't know if I need to pick a new slot or what. We'll see. Yeah, because we had already finished the first half of this. All right, Clark, seeing you all old and like Lauren. Who is us?
I let it slip through a mutual friend that I found you when I was stopping in. It's manipulative, but I'm hoping she'll reach out to you. You can let her know I'm on her side. In the meantime, if you're willing, I can share our files with you. Pass them along to Sam if she reaches out. I'm genuinely hoping she'll realize I'm an ally. Feel free to do your own research. I've been told you enjoy things like this. To each their own.
I mean, that's pretty predictable. People get greedy when money is involved. Well, I don't blame Sam for not being enthusiastic to help the family when you guys basically shunned her line and forced her to live in secret. Why would you tell anybody about me, bro? Who is she? I don't know, bro. I feel like I deserve a piece of the pie because they're asking questions. Okay, so we have 3 other maps. So we have a potential infidelity in 1921. We have a potential infidelity in 1949. We have a potential infidelity in 1975 to 83. First Affair, Final Affair, and I guess some other spinoffs. Family Tree update in 1998. So we know that the Butler sister, I'm sorry, not Butler, the Roottrees sisters, Carl and Brenda died in a plane crash in 98. So something must have happened shortly after that for this person to exist. And then these are older ones. These are older affairs that have nothing to do with what's happened since then. So let's see what evidence he's given us. So he gave us some notable events. Today is August 3rd, 1999. It's been 8 months since you helped Sam Madsen with the research necessary for her book. Sam was true to her word and paid you an incredibly large sum of money. She never mentioned you by name, however, so you managed to keep a low profile. The Roottrees, on the other hand, have not. Below is a summary of notable events since the book's release, but you can refresh your memory in full detail by searching online. So 6 pieces, which was Sam's Madsen book about Elias Roottree, released in February. It was a bestseller for a few months. At that time, Carl had not yet been replaced. Okay. But now we know Clark is doing it. So the Roottree rift in March. The Roottree company stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the book's release, with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. Well, that's not good. Then we have Clark Rafferty LaRoe. He was announced as a permanent successor to Carl Roottree and welcomed Sam Madsen to the family. The company hired an outside legal group to handle the changes in the Clancy Trust. This included any other new lines of lineage. And the 5 Ps, which is, I guess, different than the 5 pieces. Not quite sure there. Because we know the 5 pieces are the original children, minus Edward Clancy, the gay twin that married a farmhand and had to live in secret. So we're missing that one. For the 5 Ps, it says, after the announcement, there was a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, mostly dismissed as opportunists and scammers. The largest profile of these by a wide margin was a rapper named Felix Fellows, who changed his moniker to the 5 Ps as a publicity move at the same time. 5 Ps is the only notable person on the tree. That's interesting. So he's a rapper. It was the 90s. Roottreemania and another high-profile misstep. Miracle Roottree publicly and vehemently denied that 5 Ps was a Roottree. The Roottrees legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get the 5 Ps to drop his claim. And in a moment that caught the world what seemed by storm, the test proved he was a Roottree. Suddenly, the world was obsessed with Roottrees. Okay, so he messed up. He shouldn't have asked him for a DNA test, I guess. Then we have Annie Mom and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman who the press began referring to as Annie Mom, appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised. She claimed that she had an affair with the Roottree led to the birth of her daughter, aka Jane Doe Roottree. If this is true, that make her daughter yet another secret Roottree, and therefore entitled to a share of the Clancy trust. Nobody knew at the time, but this would turn out to be the last chapter in the Roottreemania saga. Oh, so we have another person, and that's very complicated. As more and more of Annie Anonymous' story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5 Ps in nearly every significant way. The court of public opinion began to turn, confirming the world's suspicion. The DNA test, orchestrated by lawyers on both sides, proved that her daughter was not a Roottree. This final event caused public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations of the entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or an attempt at fraud. Things got a bit ugly, and the fun of Roottreemania seemed to disappear overnight. 2 months later, it feels like a distant memory. Well, the one that's a star, where is that on the... Oh, so 5 Ps would be here in this square, because the only one that starred, but his mom is someone that had an affair in the 70s with someone who is a Roottree. So they're going to be someone who was at the top that we already identified previously. So anyone green is somebody we knew from before, from the top when we did the first story. These other people, though, are going to be completely new. Okay, so those were helpful. So previously on the Roottrees, this is a new investigation with a new focus. After many months of newfound interest in the Roottrees, we recommend you try to catch up with some of what happened since last time. Some web searches may yield new or different results, and some books or magazines from previous investigations may be relevant to your new one. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of first and last names you can choose from will contain red herrings. Not all of them will be used. Below is a reminder of some of the most notable beats in your original dive into the Roottree family. All evidence from before is still available, and for your convenience, any searches that do not lead to new information will still function as they did during your first investigation. So we know the Roottree family was established by Elias and Gwyneth many years ago. The entire family has a financial reliance on the health of the company. Most actions took place in and around Butler County, Pennsylvania, where the company was originally located. 3 people have been on the covers of magazines: Elias, Carl, and Raina. Other notable Roottrees, such as Lauren, Miracle, and Jim, have physical media, such as records, books, movies associated with them. Lauren's 2 diaries were probably the most useful resource overall, mentioning many of her relatives directly. The 5 pieces, Elias's children, could be identified based on the initials of the original candy flavors. There were 5 presidents of the Roottree Company, and many were featured in periodicals. Carolyn Morden, Stephanie Jones, and Brian Jones were featured in campaign posters and led to Carolyn's art book, which enabled you to figure out more of the tree. Many of the younger Roottrees were found through a complex rabbit hole through a conspiracy site that led to finding a searchable web address for Chris Lafferty, Lauren's grandson. November Roottree was really difficult to place. Her occupation could only be found via Brian Jones's company's website. Ronald and his brother Robert Roottree go by Ron and Robbie. They both worked on a TV show called Brother Trouble until Robbie embezzled money and fled to Paris. Ron unsuccessfully tried to have Robbie removed from the clan's trust. Sam and her father were cryptically mentioned in the book about historical letters. There's also some dead ends. Elias hearing Roottree, who claimed he was Roottree but wasn't. The Family Man book about Elias Roottrees was propaganda and not useful. Lauren's other books, although they are historical romance novels, were also not useful. And then Carolyn's Morden sculptures were not useful. Wow, that's a lot to work with. Oh, that's where we are now. Now, there's 8 clues on this. The telescope tells us what to learn. So they mentioned quite a few people. I think another search on Roottree Candy Company may be progressive, because I know this has taken place quite a few times. Lauren Roottree, we have to look her up again now that she's, part of the family. See if anything has changed. Miracle Roottree, Jim Roottree. We have some people to research. Carolyn Morden. We didn't get a ton of information on the Morden line the first time. Stephanie Jones, Brian Jones, because this is a year later, so some of the kids would also have grown up, possibly, and now are out of college or out of high school and could have done something in the last year since all this has happened. November Roottree, we never did see anything about her the first time, which is suspicious, and she owns a whole choreographer studio. That's weird. Back to our trusty internet. Still that dial-up, though. Man, too bad they couldn't skip a few years into the future so we could have DSL at least. Ugh. Don't miss that. Okay. Let's start a search with... We're going to go backwards. We're going to start with people that we already knew from the past. So still nothing for November Roottree, which is so weird. It's like, November, where are you? Man, okay. So still useless for November. But we had to try it because, they said that some old evidence would give us new information. So nothing new for Chris Rafferty. All right. Stephanie Jones. She should be in her new role now. Right. Stephanie Jones should be in her new position. So she got hired and she won for city council. So she should be working now. So it says Brian Jones has been updating Stephanie Jones's campaign website. 2 new sections exist. First one is baby photo. There you see a picture of their new family together in the hospital. According to the site, our daughter was named after her grandmother, which ended up being very fitting considering she was born the night before Christmas. What's next? There's not much of substance right there right now, but there's a small list of some small accomplishments and finishes with the recent rise in popularity and controversy surrounding my extended family, there has been some extra attention on me. Stay tuned for announcements in the upcoming months on how I plan to use this publicity to accomplish bigger and better things. So we have an updated picture of Brian Jones, Stephanie Jones, and the baby that's named after her grandmother. Okay, just popping back up here on the wheel. Where were they before? Her mom is Carolyn Morden. So her grandma would either be a Morden or Gwendolyn Roottree, but I feel like that's her great grandma would be Gwendolyn Roottree. So I'm not sure what her grandma Clara Lansing, right? Because grandma's 2 generations up. So Stephanie Jones's baby maybe named Clara. After her grandma, I guess. Because if not, I'm not sure. Unless it takes after the man's grandma, but we don't know a lot about that. So, but we did get some new pictures. We're going to search Brian Jones since we didn't search him. There's an older version. Oh, I see. So it'll show me there's 2 versions of that webpage. So Clara Jones, I guess will be the baby's name. Okay, well, let's see Brian Jones. Oh, nothing new on him. It says this page has been updated for 8 months and now may be irrelevant. So when things are old, it doesn't get updated. Has he done any new work? Maybe he's taken on new clients? No. Alright, so dead end on Brian, but we did get something out of Stephanie. Let's try Carolyn Morden again. Carolyn. Okay, we got something new. So after the release of 6 pieces, Carolyn Morden did a television interview. Someone has uploaded a partial transcript of that interview on the television section of the messaging community. The transcripts are only her answers and is missing the questions. It does create a somewhat confusing reading experience, but it does give a bit more history about Carolyn and some of her family members. Okay, so did Carolyn write the 6 pieces? So she did an interview after the release of 6 pieces, which is interesting, I guess. Let's go see what that looks like. So she did 45 minutes, a Carolyn Morden interview. It's a cable news interview. The transcripts only have her answers. Thanks for having me. I've never really fit into the family, so it didn't surprise me. She could have put me in if she wanted to talk about the time during my activism days when I almost got arrested for stealing the spark plugs out of her tractors. But I don't think that really fit her narrative. I don't know what she means by that. Because she said that they could have mentioned it, and it's like, mentioned what? Now she says she could have mentioned it. Now we know only a certain branch were farmers or in that line. So going back to the top half that we were in, she only could be referring to Gwendolyn or Samantha, because this is Carolyn talking about how she could have mentioned I tried to steal stuff out of the tractor. So it could only be a certain line of people. So in her youth, she stole parts of a tractor from either Samantha or Gwyneth, I guess. She stole spark plugs out of tractors. And it's either Sam or Gwyneth. What was her last name? Because they're the only 2 that would have done tractors. Yes and no. They tried to kick me out or send me to live on a farm, if that's what you mean. But I was already pretty unpopular. And once everyone learned why I divorced my husband, few people paid me any attention. She divorced her husband and people ignored her. I guess for being a lesbian. Because her second spouse was called Eloise. So she remarried later. She's my wife, not legally, but we've been together half our lives. Call it what it is. I was 20 and had just had my daughter. I hate to look back on that time because I was a terrible mother the first few years. I left my daughter with my ex-husband and followed Guy on a private jet to Europe. He lost a tooth and a client. I found love and a better understanding for who I was. Still, in our family's eyes, his trip was somehow more acceptable. Explain that. So when is her daughter Stephanie? Yeah, when Stephanie was young, Carolyn abandoned her to go with Guy Hudson to Europe and met Eloise. No, I couldn't stand him. Our family wrote off his behavior like he was some big fan of romance or women, but he didn't like the entire woman. It was undoubtedly awkward for me because he was more supposed than most. I slowly started to figure out he assumed I'd be as shallow as he is. I don't know if she's still talking about Guy or if she's talking about someone else. He was a workaholic. He seemed nice enough and did a good job. I don't know him well. That was one of Sam's problems with our family. None of us did except Carl. Honestly, I get why she's pissed. I'd rather not speak ill of the dead. Not unless you want more stories about Guy. With Carl, though, all I can say is we used to be friends before they sent him to private school. So Carl and Carolyn were friends until he was sent to private school. It changed him. Oh, well, he's harder to label. When I was a teenager, he was basically drunk or high or both all the time. He actually used to sell me pot. His problem with women were different than guys, but he never really judged me. I guess he knew it'd be pretty hypocritical to judge anyone for anything. Back then, he was destructively unreliable in every way, but nowadays he's just boring and old. I prefer that to how he used to be and to Guy and Carl, but it's still a cautionary tale. I hope I'm never that boring and old. Now, for the second person, she could only be talking to about Clark Rafferty. The reason why I say that is because only her and Clark ever got divorced. Everyone else on the tree, well, Gwen, but she kept referring to he as a him. Gwen also got divorced, but no one else on the tree really got divorced. And it would be ironic for Clark to judge her for being a lesbian when he got divorced twice and then married the sister of his second wife. He would have no leg to, criticize her very much. So Clark, as a youth, was a drunk, smoked pot, sold pot, but he was supportive, and now he's old and boring, which makes sense. He got into advertising, he got married, and it looked like he finally settled down. Or something. I don't know if he actually settled down. Okay, so we got somewhere with that. So Carolyn Morden was super helpful. We're going to do Clark Rafferty LaRoe, because he's come up quite a bit. He has a whole new website now since he's president. So Clark is the new president of the Roottrees Corp. This does not include Root, which has new leadership. That's different because Root, the clothing company, was always under the same branch. So they must have broke that out then because he's not in charge of that. So he's new president of Root, of the candy company, but not of the clothing company. In early March of 1995, it was announced that both Clark and Ron would be taking over what was essentially described as a transitional period in the aftermath of Six Pieces. Clark and Ron Roottree would be co-presidents, I guess, during transition after Six Pieces. But 2 weeks later, Ron was dismissed, so I don't know what happened there. Most of the information about Clark you already knew. Many descriptions of him tend to focus on his advertising career and that his mother was Lauren Roottree. Few seem to touch on his complex and volatile marital history. Since taking over, Clark tried to remain out of the public eye, but he did have one notable foray into the public eye. He gained a lot of support when his first move was a statement in the acceptance of Sam and her family into the trust, it was also served as an announcement that the Clancy Trust will no longer be handled by anyone in the family due to their financial motivation. None of them could be impartial. True. That is a hard one. Let's look up Ron Roottree. I need one more E. Gwen died 3 weeks ago in France, so she stayed in France. Doesn't seem like she came back. Ron and Robbie made amends. Let's see if we can find this in Business Watch. Business Watch ran an article about 2 months after the Roottree rift about what really happened with Roottree. The article mentions that no one from Roottree that they reached out to was willing to go on record. Instead, the timeline of events has been constructed from public record, accidental leaks, and honest source on the inside. The only parts that are new to you are also the most vague parts, the ones supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. The timeline says that the family actually held a preliminary vote after Carl Roottree died, but before the release of 6 pieces, and they decided they wanted Ron Roottree to take over because of his experience running RR Productions and because he was a well-known and well-respected Roottree. But Ron seemed too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would gut the Clancy Trust to remove Robbie Roottree. The family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that would risk their wealth. They stalled, and Ron became frustrated with the delay. When the 6 pieces came out, he saw that his chance to force action while the family was in the limelight and released a press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling. This caused chaos within the family. They tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as co-president, but according to the Business Watcher's source, Ron was impossible to deal with. He seemed like he was unwilling to protect the Clancy Trust, and they eventually let him go. After that, the role was passed solely to Clark, who nobody was excited about, but seemed like the safest choice. So the Roottree rift. Family voted for Ron, but then took it back, I guess. Because he was too eager and wouldn't keep up the trust, I guess. Which it doesn't sound like anyone can do anything about the Clancy Trust. But he published the article during all the chaos, and so they had to do something about that. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't sound like anything too crazy. Let's see if they have something different on Clark Rafferty LaRoe. Oh, this isn't. Clark Rafferty LaRoe, as well as Ruby Spratt and her company, Ruby's Legal Enterprises, were featured in Business Watch after the company took over as the keepers of the Clancy Trust. There's an article about that process that interviews both Clark and Ruby. It seems that Ruby actually approached the Rootrees sometime in late March after the Roottree rift. So sometime in late March. But before Roottreemania, an accomplished but relatively low-profile lawyer, she offered to work for very little money as long as she could be the public face to build her reputation. The family quickly jumped on this chance as many family members attempt to spend as little as possible. After looking over the trust more carefully, Ruby came to the conclusion that the Clancy Edwards family Roottrees implementation was not legally sound, and there would be some legal challenges without some modifications. The family decided to put her in charge of the trust, both legally and as a public face, to prevent further issues. Ruby Legal Enterprises has been both described as a mix between a law firm and a PR firm. Her first move was to help them draft a public statement accepting Sam into the trust and declaring that they started addressing the Clancy Trust. This went quite well, and they hired her in April. So we have Ruby, what's her name again? Ruby Spratt. So she owns Ruby Legal Enterprises. hired on in April after a trial. She made the PR statement about accepting Sam. Okay, relatively positive. Let's try Ruby Sprat, I guess. Oh, that's the same thing. Okay, let's try Ruby Legal Enterprises. Okay, so nothing new on those fronts. Okay, Ruby Legal Enterprises is the name of the law firm that has been hired by the Roottrees Candy Company, named after Ruby Sprat. Can't find much about the company before this year, after the fiasco of the 6 pieces and the revelation that the Roottrees internal law group was complicit in a cover-up. Oh. She came on after 6 pieces and the revelation. I don't know what that revelation is. The Roottrees internal law group was complicit. Now, I don't know who their internal law group is. They were recently in the news due to a high-profile lawsuit against Cicely Sanchez. All right, Cicely. Cicely Sanchez is the author of a best known for Portrait of the Changed Man in 1979. Her follow-up, Foreign Gospel, did not perform as well critically, but sold quite respectably. She's written more books since then, including a biography of Van Gogh, but her first 2 are her claim to fame. According to a site about authors, Cicely is known for her nonfiction, with a focus on exploring darkness in the human psyche. Recently, Cicely appeared in a magazine called Picote. I'm not sure how to say that. Picote. So some of these books we got to look up too. Portrait of a Changed Man. And then Foreign Gospel. Sounds religious, so this might have something to do with miracle. Recently, she was in Picote with the articles that she had been commissioned to write a book about Guy Hudson. The magazine and Cicely herself were immediately issued a cease and desist due to inclusion of pictures she was never had the rights to publish. Let's pop over to the books, because now I'm curious. So we have Portrait. Oh, author's name. Cicely. What was her name? Cicely Sanchez. I wonder why they're writing the book on Guy. Guy's been, at this point, dead for a while. So I don't know how interesting a book on him would be. And he had no kids, so it's kind of like... kind of boring. So it's out of print. So she published Portrait of a Change. I'm not getting any information, though. Like, a lot of information, but not a lot of good information. Unless she had an affair with Miracle or something in 1979. So this is an older book. What if everything you stand for, everything you need to be true today could disappear in an instant? All of your politics, relationships, gone in the blink of an eye. Would you still be you? Cicely tells a powerful true story about a man who woke up after being saved from drowning in his backyard pool and became a different person, including interviews of people who knew him best before and a one-on chat. About a guy who was saved from drowning. That's weird. Then she did a second one, Foreign Gospel. Foreign Gospel. Okay. Oh, this is... okay. She wrote in 1984 a Foreign Gospel. So 5 years later. about a man from the Catholic Church who claims he's told by God to travel to Thailand and begin to preach, specifically with the goal of converting 10,000 people. He returned to U.S. after just 2 years, claiming he succeeded. Oh. Yeah, I mean, 10,000 people in 2 years is not a lot of time. That makes me think it's definitely a part of Miracle's line because, like, to be honest, nobody else is preacher in the family. So it has to be somebody from that. Now, Picote tea, is that something? Picote is a category of flower with an outliner around the edges of its petals. That's not incredibly helpful. I'm going to look up Gwen Roottree because she just died, so she should have something. Gwen Roottree was a somewhat well-known actress who was active in the 50s. Her biggest role was in the minor hit movie Guys Like Us. She died in Paris about 3 weeks ago. After leaving Hollywood, she made no effort to stay in the limelight, and most obituaries focus on her largest role. Not much is known about her death, except for it was announced that she died peacefully in her sleep while being treated for sudden severe case of pneumonia. Before that, she was in relatively good health. According to her friends and family, she was 67. She's not really that old. In her, well, but still peaceful, in her sleep after pneumonia. I mean, that's pretty common. I think when you're older, you get a lot of illnesses. Okay, so nothing terrible. Oh, let me see. Roottree Rift. Okay, the three press releases from the Roottree family company after the release of 6 pieces were referred to as the Roottree Rift. Okay. So 3 press releases after 6 pieces. So we need to still look up 6 pieces because that keeps coming up as like the source of everything, which was, I'm assuming, the book. And there's still a lot of people to look up. I still want to look up like all these people. So, okay. The first one was standard, stated no president, but the entire family was made aware of the book. So first release, it doesn't give us dates, but I guess that's fine. No president yet. Whole family is aware of the book, which makes sense. I'm sure they read it. And they're going to meet to verify the validity of the claims. Okay, I mean, that's pretty standard, and I'm sure their attorney helped them write that. So the second PR release, emailed to business newspapers, which that's interesting. So email is taken off now in 99. Which, I mean, that's pretty standard, I guess. 3 hours later, that Ron Roottree is the interim president. And went on to state that Ron was aware of the book, had verified the claims within, and would be compensating Miss Madsen and the family. I guess. I don't know how that would change in 3 hours. But we know from the other article that Ron sent the article without telling anybody, and that was a part of the problem. And revisit the terms, and that's why the family kicked him out. It's like, don't say you're going to revisit the terms. It was quickly clear to business reporters and analysts that the time between the 2 press releases would not have been logically sufficient to gather the majority of the family, even using conference calls. This was reported to many news channels, and a third, much shorter press release came the next day. Dang. So all this was in the course of 1.5, 2 days. Came the next day. It claims that the draft of the announcement was made prematurely and that both Clark and Ron would be taking over as joint presidents. Right. That's what they did to save face. And then 2 weeks later, they got rid of Ron because he was doing too much. So I could see some bitterness would be a part of that, though. Okay, so we learned a lot. Let's see what we can get from Root. Okay. Jim and Diamond apparently sent out some mail to Diamond Dazzlers that mentioned they couldn't spend a lot of time near or around the candy company anymore, so they couldn't really comment on any recent news. A best of album did get released, the CD, during Roottreemania, and while neither of them have performed recently, the couple did do a few signings at local record stores near them. During question-answer sessions, Jim stated he hadn't been inspired to write any new lyrics. Maris looks like it's doing fine. No rumors of infidelity. Just to pop over here into... Is it Music Monthly? Starlet? I don't know what it would be in, actually. Oh, this is old. I don't have another. There we go. News Time is a major news periodical that releases a new issue every week. The rapper 5Ps. Oh, so he's coming up. 5Ps appeared on cover of News Time, claiming to be a Roottree. Then 1 week later, Miracle Roottrees did the same, claiming that he wasn't. Because of the high-profile back-to-back discourse right before the start of Roottreemania, they appeared to be the de facto publication to get news on the Roottrees saga. They reported record number of subscribers during this time, which lasted until the end of Roottreemania, and the world generally stopped paying attention, and they went back to reporting on much more traditional news. Well, now we have a new periodical, so we're going to try news. Let's go back to Root. Nothing about him. Okay. Nothing about her. Just trying to make sure I haven't missed anything on the people we've already looked at. Because, you know, it's a pain to backtrack. Okay. Alright, just making sure. Gwen Roottree. Okay, Roottrees Rift. Do they have anything different? No. Ruby Sprat. Oh, see, that's different. News Time briefly covered a lawsuit between Ruby Sprat and Perot magazine. They said that Cicely did not have the rights to redistribute the pictures in the magazine of Guy Hudson. So that was part of the issue with Cicely, was she wanted to publish a book about Guy Hudson. And they wanted to block it. You know, Peyote announced that they'd be pulling their issue the moment that they got threatened. This caused the issue to sell faster than any other in the magazine's history, only for a day. Even people who normally wouldn't have bought one went out and buy one in case it was worth something one day. They got more if they just would have ignored it. So the Ruby Sprat and Cicely Sanchez lawsuit over Peyote magazine resulted in record number sales. And she wouldn't have won anyways. I need to look that up again. So it's Peyote magazine. Oh, there we go. Pickle Tea Magazine is a publication that, as far as you can tell, has no consistent theme. It tends to contain tabloid-esque articles that appeal to a wide variety of audiences and appear in many grocery stores near the checkout aisle. Unlike traditional tabloids, it doesn't feature celebrities on the cover. It tends to latch on and create sensationalist headlines about whatever subject appears to be popular at any given time. In the recent years, this has included Beanie Babies, Magic Eye images, and even Red Bull. It often comes under fire for printing fiction along with facts. Pickle Tea gets around this by stating in every issue that the articles are hearsay that's fit to print. At one point, Pickle Tea ran an article about Cicely Sanchez, an author. She claims to have written an unread book about Guy Hudson. The article wasn't even the main focus of the issue, yet the magazine was legally threatened by the Roottrees Corporation. That particular issue, Big Sass Sea Bass, was pulled from the shelves. It's now become a collector's item, especially amongst conspiracy theorists trying to figure out what the Roottrees company was hiding. You have recently found an online auction that lists a copy at over $1,000. That's interesting. So it's called Big Sass Sea Bass. See if we can find that in this. There we go. For issue called Big Sass Sea Bass. That's interesting. It's an issue that's focused on a talking toy fish and the demonic messages it supposedly said as the batteries ran low. Pickle Tea had an article about a canceled book by Cicely Sanchez. The book's subject was Guy Hudson, and the issue was said to contain pictures that Cicely did not have the right to publish. Because of the pictures, this issue was pulled from the store shelves, making it the subject of some conspiracies and an instant collector's item. Due to recall, the version found in these archives is incomplete. So there's 8 clues on this, which is absolutely wild. So this is the article about Pickle Tea Magazine. It contains the article about Cicely Sanchez. Seems that they used pictures of Guy that she didn't own. Slap with a cease and desist. That's weird. It says there's 8 clues. It's like, from what? That's so weird. Okay, well, we did get something out of that, I guess. Now for Pickle Tea, we're going to look up 5 P's. Oh, no, P doesn't come up. What about Clark Rafferty LaRoe? Okay. Gwen Roottrees. Roottrees Rift. Okay. Anything else on Cicely Sanchez? Oh, no, we got that already. Ruby Spratt. Okay, so they don't have anything new that I don't already have. We can see Stephanie Jones. No. Carolyn Morden. Guy Hudson. Is there anything for that? Okay, no. Okay, never mind. We got what we're going to get from that. Oh, what about Roottreemania? No. Okay. Roottrees Candy Company? Okay. I don't know them. Let's look up a root. I thought it was taken over by new management, but it doesn't seem like it. Let's see if it comes up here. The Root website has a small memorial section for the deceased members of the family, but contains no new information. The most recent catalog in 1999 had a completely black cover with no text on it. You learn that the Root is currently managed by a designer who is apparently Brenda White's second in command. You don't recognize the name, and she seems unrelated to the search. There's also a scholarship page on that. You find information about the Roottrees Sisters Fashion Scholarship. It's to award 3 underprivileged high school girls each year who wish to pursue fashion as a career. It also gives them an opportunity to show off their designs on professional models on a real runway. According to the site, the fund was created directly from shares that would have contributed to the inheritance of the Roottrees sisters had they been alive. Like other aspects of the Clancy Trust, it's managed by Ruby Legal Enterprises. Okay, so Root Clothing Company was taken over by someone who's not in the family. Currently run by a designer. Okay. But we got no names, so they must not be too important. I'm surprised it didn't stay in the family when it was under the family's umbrella. I'm curious about the Roottrees Sisters Fashion Scholarship. Does that pull up anything? Okay. It was worth checking, though. Okay, so that doesn't help us a ton. We're going to look up Roottrees Sisters again. The website you used to initially place Raina, Rose, and Riley is still up, but instead of a cheery pink background with purple text, it's a more traditional black text on a white background. The young webmaster has turned the site into a memorial for the sisters and their father. It did seem like she ended up getting her ears pierced like Rose after all. Regardless, there's no relevant information, just a picture of the girls with a sad MIDI piano playing in the background. I wonder if I should be searching that somewhere else. Because they refer to this scholarship twice now. So it's like, is that relevant? Maybe Teen Blast? Wouldn't be in Scarlet. Maybe Pico Teen? I don't know then. Okay, a week after the Roottrees sisters died in a plane crash, Pico T focused on the expose on the pilot and co-pilot. It was mostly seen as completely useless and an intentional mischaracterization of two crew members. For example, they claimed the co-pilot, who was pilot flying that day, was on pharmaceuticals, but it turns out he had purchased a mild pain reliever in the airport gift shop the night before. They also claimed the pilot had been let go from his previous position at a much larger airline, which was true, but only part of a downsize. Okay, so none of this is relevant. Alrighty, well, we're giving it a whirl. Okay. Never mind then. We just had to try, because I was trying to see what else has changed. So, Jim Roottrees. Oh, we did look up that. Diamond Dazzlers. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. Okay, so nothing new on that. Miracle Root. Help to spell, huh? Miracle Roottree. Seems that Miracle Senior is going on a new tour of the United States. Okay. In late 1999. Be part of history. The oldest living Roottrees reprises and tells his incredible true story. Miracle Roottrees grew up one of the famous five pieces, living a life of wealth and luxury. But fortune was nothing compared to the powerful force of the Almighty. Doctors determined he was destined to die young, but fate had different plans. He's now lived a long and fruitful life. He's now in his 70s, and age is making it harder to make life on the road more difficult. So this is your last chance to see him. In an intimate evening, he will reminisce about his famous history. He'll discuss his family, saints and sinners, and provide a unique perspective on one of the most notable families in the United States today. Learn what originally drove him away from his fortune and into the arms of religion, and how he learn how his life has become more wealthy in spirit than it ever could have been from inheritance. The site also lists the churches he'll be appearing in, mentions that tickets can be purchased at their local services. But nothing about his news appearance. That's interesting. Let's try him in this. Oh, this is an older one. Let's see, Piketty. News Time? There we go. Miracle appears on the cover of New Time, denying that Felix Fellows is a Roottree. This is definitely Grandpa, because oh my God. So he appeared on News Time July 19 of 1999 to deny 5Ps. So Miracle Roottree appeared on the cover of News Time shortly after 5Ps did. He vehemently denies that 5Ps was a Roottree. This was before DNA proved it. Miracle doesn't focus much on the details of his accusation towards his mother and Guy Hudson. Instead, he comes across as exhausted at the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the attack of the character, of those he feels are attacking his family. So Guy Hudson might have had the affair. He starts with 5Ps content, so although most of the book was based in fact, it left out anything that didn't fit the agenda. He points out Sam's daughters are still earning a generous salary for overseeing the farm division of the Roottrees, and that Sam did before her. Though Sam's family was not destitute, and it really is only her son that chose to take on a job with no salary. Now, who is Sam's son? Oh, Ernest Jr. Well, he was president. They're not allowed to get a salary. According to the way the trust is set up, they are not allowed to get anything more than the cost of a single pack of 5 pieces. So it's not that he took on a job with no salary. The way the trust and the 5 piece guarantee was set up, there's no salary. So, I mean, it's not like he just went unemployed. But that's kind of unfair. He also claimed that they didn't have to, but the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting was the right thing to do. I mean, they did pay the medical bills, but it wasn't really them paying it. If I remember correctly, Carl and Brenda helped Deborah and Nicole pay the bills. I don't know if it was the whole family that helped pay the bills. I guess it came from the trust. I guess, but that's not clear who exactly paid for that. Miracle also says a story about Elias shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Elias gave him an ultimatum: stop sending or be disowned. Miracle said it was EC's own choice, and Elias allowed him to earn his food and shelter from the company's dime was a kindness, considering that him and John considered to live together. So supposedly EC was given a choice. To stop sinning or be disinherited. And so, I don't know. Miracle then pivots to the fallout from the 6 pieces. He recounted the deluge of claims to the Clancy trust that the family has been subjected to. He didn't give any specifics, but he said every time someone comes forward, the family devolves into arguments. They had to hire an outside legal team to help. But so far, every case has been false, and it tarnishes the family's reputation. He focuses on 5Ps who appeared on News Time before him. He calls him a grifter and a delinquent. So he uses their names and products to sell filth to the masses. He says this is most dangerous because it exposes the world to hatred. He cites the lyrics as violent, sexist, and ungodly. Hopes the boy will repent, retract his lies, and find religion. Lastly, he turns to the future. Miracle says that those who wish to hear the true story can join him on his farewell tour in this upcoming fall. The Miracles, Roottrees are planning to tour the country's churches one last time, and now at 71, he's the oldest living Roottrees. Well, yeah, that's because he was 14 years younger than everyone else, so that makes sense why he's still alive, because everyone else has been like 85-ish at this point. Last chance to hear the truth from the man with the most complete recollection of America's most notable family in your hometown. And also mentioned that Miracle's son did not want to comment and has a statement from Clark Rafferty LaRoe. Michael does not speak for the entire family. We're carefully working on the plan to disprove any claims of infidelity in our family's past. The article does not dispute that he's the oldest living Roottrees, despite Sam Matson being born a year before him. Oh. Although Sam is 1 year older than him. Okay. That was somewhat helpful. I'm going to go back to this. We're going to look up 5 P's because now that seems to be relevant. So his name is Felix Fellows, and also known as 5 P's. He appeared on the cover of News Time. Kicking off Roottreemania. So everyone wanted to know what was happening because of all these allegations of people being possible relatives. And he appeared a week before Miracle Sr. went on the magazine. All right, well, let's see. I want a little bit more of this. So let's check Picoty. Felix Fellows. Okay, just making sure I have everything I need on these people. Oh, maybe there's no S. Okay, just making sure. I got his picture. So this is Felix Fellows. 5 P's, aka Felix Fellows, appeared on the cover of News Time holding a photo of his mom and Guy Hudson. The article concerns his insistence that his father was Guy Hudson. The story was dramatic and sensationalized and initially dismissed as false until a DNA test proved he was related to Guy Hudson. 5 P's alleges that his mother, his mom is Joanna, Zach Morden's secretary, before he retired, and then Guy's secretary for 2 weeks before he quit. His parents divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Well, that sucks. And then they moved to Portland. He grew up with her until he was 16, but then one day she never came home and she was found dead from... Oh, wow. That's so sad. His mom was found dead from a drug overdose in her car after stealing from work and buying heroin. That just seems so out of character. She didn't do it all this time and then she does it when he's 16. Was she framed? As Felix went through her belongings, he found things he would always remember her by: her hairbrush, some photos, a stuffed animal. But then he found a box hidden in the back of her closet, or love letters and photos related to Guy Hudson, as well as letters from his father containing threats. He threw it all away with the exception of one photo, which he appears on the cover of News Time. He said it's the only one where they were dressed, the only one not from the affair itself. The picture shown in the magazine was added to evidence. The magazine also includes some history about 5 P's career. He was born... So Felix's, I guess, fake dad is Riley Fellows. But he has never tried to rap without a moniker. He even found success by opening for other artists and selling CDs on the corner in Portland. The writer did confirm some of the truth and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottree Company as a secretary sometime during the early to mid-70s. It's also confirmed she did die of a drug overdose and Felix went to foster care. They never could track down the dad. They also reached out to the Roottrees Company, but they had a blanket statement. Since the release of the recent book, Roottrees has seen an overwhelming number of false ancestral claims. None have been factual. Nearly all have been knowingly dishonest. We encourage individuals to reach out to us in an official capacity as opposing to using our name in the media for publicity. Okay. So that seems legit. We need to look them up. So we're not quite done, but Riley and Joanna Fellows, because that's kind of important. There's one other. Could this rapper be the next Sam Manuel hidden from the family? So we're supposed to have Guy Hudson and someone. Joanna. Now looking at this tree again, if Guy Hudson, if this is supposed to be the early 70s, he would have to be the third one here, right? And that was his first affair, was in the 70s? Because the person with the star is who? 5Ps is the guy with the star. So if we're saying this is him, and his name is Felix? Felix Fellows. I don't know. And he's a rapper, I guess. Musician, I guess. They're not going to get us into the weeds here. Infidelity, split up. So her spouse was Riley Fellows. And the mom was Joanna Fellows. They're making it harder by having the last names be separate. So then this has to be Guy Hudson. So he did have an affair. Now, Guy's occupation, he was a... Where is he on the map again? These people be just bouncing around. It's like, where are you? He was the third president. Right? Oh, you have to lock 4 people in. Oh, you have to lock 4 people in for it to lock in. So he had quite a few affairs. He's very active here. But that helps a little bit. She was a secretary. So that locks in a couple of people. But he had other affairs then, besides the one that we know about. Okay, well, let's go back a little bit more research here. So Riley Fellows, nothing related to him. What about Joanna? Okay, so nothing related to them. She should pop up. Oh, no, she doesn't? No, so none of these people are popping up. We have his article. But he's had other affairs. Just not sure who yet. Alright, we're going to go back to here. Jim Roottree. Did we get anything new on him? Oh, we already looked at that. Okay. And we looked at Miracle. Did we look up Lauren Roottrees? Did she give us any other books after the first one? In the wake of 6 Pieces release, Lauren Roottrees was tracked down by a reporter as being in one of the most upscale memory care facilities in Pittsburgh. She's suffering from Alzheimer's. There's minor backlash towards the reporter that tracked her down because they were standing on the ladder and holding their camera over the privacy wall to take a picture of Lauren and her son sitting on a bench near a small pond in the premises. So Lauren now has dementia. That sucks. Or Alzheimer's, I'm sorry. But either way, it still sucks. And is in a memory care. So you can't ask her anything now because she's already too far gone. But these people are also really old. You know, they've lived the life. So Lauren. Okay, nothing new on her. Then we put in Roottrees Candy Company. Oh, this is old. It hasn't been updated. Okay, let's try an anonymum. Pico T is not afraid to expose details that other publications would shy away from, especially when it comes to Annie Mom and Jane Doe Roottrees. They were a little late to the punch. Over a month after the announcement that Jane Doe Roottrees was not a Roottrees, Pico T exposed personal details about the story under the headline Annie Mom, the Annie Con. They said that Annie Mom worked as a manager. It's always something dramatic. So she was a manager of a department store in North Carolina. So not exactly the same town that they live in. Was Courtney May. They said the woman that vouched for her famous cover story is Corinne S. And she has filed for bankruptcy. Corinne S. collaborated her story, but has since filed for bankruptcy. So see, the problem is this is not a reliable source, so I don't know if this is accurate or not. But she filed for bankruptcy. Speculates they were in on it together, might have been lovers. I don't know. That may not be reliable. Let's see if Teen Blast had anything. Courtney May have anything? No. Butler, they weren't from there though. Yeah, I don't see how that would be helpful. An anonymous woman appeared on the cover of News Times holding a picture of her daughter, Jane Doe Roottrees. The first and only mention of the phrase Annie Mom in News Time came the week after when they issued an apology featuring her in the first place. Please, we can't even get a picture. So she appeared on Newsweek Time, July 26th. So right after the whole Felix Fellows, because he was on there July 12th. Then July 19th, we get Miracle Senior on News Time. And then July 20th. So they were in a row. They were like back to back to back. 2 weeks after Felix. And 1 week after Miracle Senior. So I guess they had nothing else to talk about in July of 1999. It was determined through DNA that she's not a Roottrees. They refer to her daughter as Jane Doe Roottrees. An anonymous woman appeared on the cover shortly after Five Pez was confirmed as a member of the family. She holds a daughter for picture. She wants to remain anonymous. Claims that she had an affair with Guy Hudson while he was working as a secretary. She and another woman were hired on during the same transitional period, while most of the secretaries who had worked under Zach Morton had already gone. She said that she and the other woman were both underqualified as neither had typewriter experience. According to other staff members interviewed, Guy had his own requirements for hiring women. So she has a similar story to Joanna Fellows, except for her child's not his, though. And she claims she worked with Joanna. Maybe she just stole Joanna's story because she knew about it. Maybe they were friends at the time. Hudson liked to throw lavish parties, and he was no longer present. The more excuses he found, the anonymous woman posits that the parties mostly seemed like an excuse to have after parties at Guy's home featuring alcohol and other substances. She claims she slept with him after the parties. She confronted him when she was pregnant. He didn't seem fazed, and they came up with an arrangement. He paid her significant hush money under the table, and she used it to move away and start a new life with her daughter. I mean, that could be possible. And he just didn't ask for a DNA test because that would have been more drama. Instead of just confirming, if she's actually pregnant. When Guy died, the money stopped coming and she assumed things ran a course. She went back to work at the department store and hoped that no one ever looked too closely at how she paid for her house. She told everyone that her daughter's father walked out one day and never came back. She claims after seeing the article in News Times, she realized it was not the only one that happened to. She's never worked at the Roottrees company at the same time. That's weird. She presented no tangible evidence. All the payments were in cash. That's harder to prove. They both fact-checked and confirmed the existence of the after parties. So Guy was just wildin'. But we don't know her real name. If her daughter is Courtney May, so he had multiple affairs. And this was the first one, but he had other ones. Don't know where to put her on here. Let's see if Jane Doe Roottree comes up. Okay, we need to search her a different way. I don't know. So it's a second high-profile case with a potential new Roottrees. Instead of claiming herself as a Roottrees, she claimed she slept with Guy Hudson and her daughter was a Roottrees. This came at the height of Roottreemania. Began with a TV interview. She appeared in the shadows with a disguised voice and promoted an article. She refers to her daughter as Jane Doe Roottrees. But we know her name is Courtney May. At that time, Sam Madison publicly supported her. Due to some parts of the story she found credible. With the momentum of Sam's endorsement, she went on a media blitz, but as more details came out, people became skeptical of her story due to the similarities of Five Pieces. After fumbling the Five Pieces story so publicly, the Roottrees were they're more prepared to handle all the Clancy Trust cases. Within a week, they proved that she was not related. This was announced with a joint press conference with lawyers for both Annie Mom and the Roottrees. Each party ensured their prospective clients provided accurate samples. After the negative results were released, many who were already skeptical felt vindicated. Others who had built up hope that history could repeat itself after Five Ps felt duped. Many felt that the whole affair was a hoax to gain fame and money. Many demanded Annie Mom be held accountable. And some even tried to track down her true identity. The Roottrees felt pressure to put out a second statement to curb some of the backlash, saying that even though Jane Doe Roottree is not a Roottree, doesn't mean that her mom and Guy Hudson weren't having an affair. She has every right to make her claim, as it was verified that her stories about Guy Hudson were not exaggerated. Many people claim this high-profile, anticlimactic, and public backlash was the beginning of the end for Roottreemania. Regardless, this is the final notable event related to the release of the Five Pieces. So, Annie Mom's affair does not appear on your tree. Okay. Well, good. So I don't have to figure out who she's supposed to be. So the 6 pieces, I think, is the only thing we haven't searched. So we're going to do that. 6 pieces. So 6 pieces, Unwrapping America's Sweetest Family by Sam Madison was released in early 1999, is perhaps assisted by the relatively recent plane crash shot to the top of the charts. So 6 pieces. So it's a whole title. It's longer than that. But now you can't even, Sweetest Family by Sam Madison. And she did it in 1999. Reviews were mixed, and it was at the time on the bestsellers list for 2 months. They agreed that the core of the book about Samantha's fathers and the struggles they faced was compelling, and the takedown of the hypocrisy of Elias Roottree was deserved. Many took umbrage to the timing of the release, and the tone seemed vindictive. The fallout of the book led to the Roottrees company scrambling to release a statement, and due to a conflict in leadership, famously releasing multiple conflicting official statements over 3 days. This confusing move was referred to in pop culture due to a late-night sketch called Indecinitis, but more traditional analysts have been calling it the Roottree Rift. So this led to fallout, seemed vindictive. People called it indecisionitis or the Roottree Rift. I mean, that makes sense in a way. Let's see if we can get a little bit more on the book, though, because this, I'm assuming, would be Lauren's last book before she got Alzheimer's or whatever and had to go into a nursing facility. Did I miss something? 6. Now, I know that she wrote this book. I'm not losing my mind here. Right? Oh, Sam Madsen. Why do I keep wanting to be... Okay. Sorry. Okay. They want the whole title, too. They are not playing about that. So the book was released earlier this year, and it tells the truth about Elias Roottree, as well as Sam's fathers, Edward Clancy, Roottree, and John Miller. You helped verify her story. So much of the book's core contents are familiar with you. That said, Sam has some sections on other family secrets and rumors. Most of it didn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it's new to you. Gives details about Elias, Edward Clancy, and then John Miller. We're probably going to have to go pop and look into that. But before I get there, let me make sure that I've looked up everyone that I need to look up. Okay. Because maybe there's new information. No. Do we know anything about John Miller? No, we don't. Elias Roottree. Okay, there's a newer version of this. Elias and Gwyneth Roottree were never really celebrities, but the general public's perception of them as classic faces are associated with the Roottree Candy Company has always been somewhat high regards. This is Elias' attention as a family man with a family brand. Since the 6 pieces, the Candy Company has placed much less of an emphasis on Elias as a historical brand-connected figure, but there are those who have argued it was his right to decide how to split his inheritance and he did nothing wrong. The first Anderson Maple Farm only used to be a popular tourist attraction during the summers, when it had special tours. However, now it's seen an explosion of off-season business, as some religious and political groups have decided to visit to show support for Elias and Gwyneth's traditional values and financial rights. The rise in support, in turn, led to pickets from gay rights activists when some particularly inflammatory organizations made their pilgrimage. Amongst all the conflicts, the farm has since shut down, seemingly indefinite. And they took down the quotes from her book. Wonder why. Okay, so that has nothing to do with anything. Alright, well, just wanted to give it a whirl. Oh, this page hasn't been updated in forever. Do we know anything about John Miller? No. Okay, so those are dead ends. Alrighty, Sam's book has several different passages about her own history with the company and rumors and gossip she collected during that tenure. So Sam's book's a little different. She ran the farm beginning around 16 1968 until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 1984. So Sam ran the Anderson farm from 1968, when Elias died, to 1984, when Gwyneth took over. So not a super long time. Most of the rumors coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson, who took over as president in 1978. So partway through. Sam didn't like him because he wasn't faithful to his wife Patricia, which, I mean, that's not really any of Sam's business. Many of their hires at the time were young single women, and Guy spent a lot of lavish amounts of money on private parties. This was still 20 years ago, and Sam warns you that most of what it is hearsay. One of Sam's farm supervisors has met Elizabeth. So Elizabeth has a daughter who worked as one of Guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonelli's met her daughter at one of Guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to a pregnancy. And Elizabeth wasn't aware the party was for swingers. Rumors that their daughter showed up with Guy and didn't feel comfortable switching partners. That's confusing. Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding into markets previously untapped. However, when he went overseas and was often there for weeks at a time, and Guy was known for spending more time and money on unofficial business than meetings with distributors and manufacturers, it was said that he bribed at least one politician to open a factory in Brazil. That's not good. If it's true, though. Because he also went to a Europe trip and someone else said he lost a client. So did he bribe someone? There's also a section where Sam speculates that Elias might have cheated on Gwyneth. Gwyneth was always much kinder to Sam than Elias was, and was the first to invite Sam to family events. While she had no hard evidence, Sam always got the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back into the family using some kind of leverage, instead of it being a natural course of events. She mentioned Elias and Gwyneth were known to argue loudly, sometimes about another woman. Sam also says her son Ernie asked her about who's Beth because he heard them yelling about someone with that name. Over Beth. Elias once had a secretary. A lot of secretaries I see. Who was a different supervisor at the farm. It'd be easier if they start using these family members differently. Antonelli's seems important. I don't know why now. But let's see. Antonelli's is an Italian restaurant. It has been in Butler County twice. The most recent time was when it closed in 1992. So it closed kind of recently. Italian restaurant owned by Rochelle Zimmer. Sold the land the building was on at the time of the article. She was unsure if the restaurant would move to a new location or she would retire. Many years before that, there was a puff piece from Valentine's Day 1978 that asked recently married residents how they met. Christina Garland responded she and her husband Steve. She might be important. Christina Garland met her husband Steve, who was a chef in 1978 there. He used to work extra hours just to be there for her deliveries. Although they grew apart when the restaurant switched suppliers, they reconnected by chance and eloped at the end of last year. And got pregnant. She was a secretary and went back to delivering produce on the weekends. That could be important, because that seems to connect to what someone else said. So I don't know. I want to look up Christine Garland. I just don't know, you know. Okay, so she only pops up in that. Okay. Let's see if we can just look her up here. Okay, nothing relevant to that. All right, so let's go back. I haven't looked at this in forever. I'm assuming the new baby, the family tree update, is their baby, because that would just make sense. They didn't have the baby at this point, but now we know they do. So Brian, what's his name? Oh, that's not his name. Brian Jones and Stephanie. I have a picture of him. And then, is that Stephanie? Stephanie. She's still a politician. Her job hasn't changed. And then her baby, which is literally a baby. I mean, it can't have any other job. I'm going to say the baby's name, number one, has to be Jones, because who else could the baby be? I want to say her name is Clara. Carol? That can't be right. No, that actually has to be right, because she says she named it after the grandma, whose name is... Where is the grandma? Her name is Clara, and they said it's fitting because she was born the day before Christmas, like a Christmas carol. That kind of makes sense. It won't lock for me, though. I don't know why. But yeah, perfect. So I'm gonna stick to this. So we have Stephanie, who's in politics, the husband, and the baby. So that makes sense there. In terms of his affairs, I don't know, because he has a lot going on. He has a lot going on. I mean, we know Felix was Joanna and Riley. She was the secretary. He does rap. That makes sense. I don't know why I didn't lock, though. Oh, she wasn't a secretary when she died. She was a cashier. She died at the department store in the car. That's right. They always want the last job. That's what messes it up. She was a cashier. Was her husband's name Riley, or am I wrong on that? Man, I gotta go back and read that article again, because I think it's not locking, which makes me think I'm missing something. So Felix, his parents divorced when he was 4. Man, because I think I got the dad's name wrong. Right, he was born to Riley and Joanna Fellows. I don't think that's right, though. That seems to be the issue. I have something wrong. That's why it won't lock for me. Because I should have 4 people already. That's what I'm not getting. So Guy Hudson, he was the president. They don't give me an option to put a spouse here. We think he slept with Joanna. Right? Unless she has a different name. I don't know. She must have a different name because it's not locking for her. So Fellows was when she married this guy. But obviously she had a different last name before she got married. Man, she's messing me up. And he must have had a different last name. I don't know. Let's search again because there's something I'm missing. 5Ps, aka Felix Fellows, is a rapper who found some recent radio play after being publicly confirmed as a long-lost Roottrees and is entitled to part of their fortune. His alias 5Ps is a play on 5 pieces. An article you found on the website for the most particularly harsh reviews of modern music gives his most recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7 for whatever reason, with the headline, More Posers Than My Action Figure Collection. The reviews mention his real name is David, and he used to go by Dirty Davy, and the author rues the fact that this rebranding was a blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. His name is David. So he's not Felix? What's happening? What's happening here? Okay. His rise to prominence was kickstarted when he appeared on the cover of News Time. Oh, so his name's not Felix, it's David. Oh my god, with these people and the multiple names. Like, that's what's messing us up here. They have like a million names. His name is David. We locked Brian Jones, the pitcher. Okay, so Riley was the other guy's name. So I can lock that the next time. Oh, Lord. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Clark swears he's on your side. Okay, well, we got 7 things. Let's start here. This was given to you by Sam. It's a woman named Regina Clementine who came to her and confessed to her husband thinks he's a Roottrees. Details of the case can be found in your evidence. Stuart is the older boy wearing the vest. The woman in the photo is Mary Beth Clementine. She's going to be important. Mary Beth Clementine. A singer who may have had an affair with Miracle Roottrees. So her husband, I don't know what's going on. Okay, so if we look at the tree, one of these has to be Miracle. If we think he had a affair baby somewhere. Because we already did this side. So Miracle's either this one or this one. Probably not 21. That wouldn't make sense. So if they had an affair, she's Clementine, and her first name's Mary Beth. She's a musician, I guess. She said the older boy is Stuart. The younger boy, we don't know. So we have Stuart and something. We're not sure he's a kid, or he would have been at the time. And she claims she's having an affair with Miracle. I don't have a recent picture of Miracle, but he's still a preacher, so that hasn't changed for him. Now, we don't know who her spouse is. Right? So Regina Clementine came to her and said her husband thinks he's a Roottrie. So her name is Regina Clementine. But no, oh, she does have kids. Wait. So her husband thinks that, I don't know what's going on actually. I could be totally off. But we're moving. We're making some moves here. Let's see what other, well, actually I guess I should search her, huh? Mary Beth Clementine. Oh, did I miss a letter here? Clementine? There we go. Mary Beth Clementine was a singer most popular in the years between 1942 and 1959. So, pretty much older. She traveled around the world performing in churches. So yeah, definitely from a religious standpoint, she would have messed with Miracle. Her repertoire included a mix of religious and popular songs. Although she recorded a few records, they seem to have been lost to time. The only one you can find is the cover of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. That's weird. His hands under the label New Edison. One thing Mary Beth was known for her adoptions. She listed on many sites that mention adoption, the history of adoption, and that she adopted 2 kids in the late 1940s. Stuart and Mark. In late 1940s. She also spoke out for the benefits of adoption in front of the U.S. Congress in 49, who were convening on the debate of the first adoption of an African-American kid to a white family in the U.S. She was specifically there to detail her experience going through adoption with Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line on the adoption site, under unusual circumstances, it was surfaced that Mary Beth had been divorced twice. Twice divorced. Both to her manager, Sterling. This ended her career with religious audiences that she had been catering to, and she performed occasionally since then, but then she faded into obscurity. She died in 1994 at 76 of a stroke. Well, definitely want to figure out who Sterling is, because that's important. He's got the whole world in his hands. It's a music, and it's older, so maybe she'll pop up for us. I don't know, because this is a magazine that's defunct now. Mary Beth Clementine was reviewed and advertised many times in Modern Music Monthly. Cover of He's Got the Whole World in Her Hands, New Edison label. Very positive review of her cover, complimented her voice and tone of the guitar. The review says nothing about her herself. That's not helpful. The Old Rugged Cross. Let's see. The Old Rugged Cross. Oh, she was listed. So she was formerly Quaker. So before she did that. So let's see if that helps us on the tree. So she's Mary Elizabeth, and she married a Clementine. So she married Mark? No. Sterling Clementine. Don't have a picture of him, though. 2 kids. We have Mark. Oh, her last name wasn't Clementine. It was Quaker. Where's Quaker? That makes more sense. So then she has Stuart, I guess Clementine, because she was married. Clementine. I mean, he would have just been a boy at the time. And then we have Mark Clementine. Which, I mean, he also would have been a kid at the time. I mean, I don't know what his job is now. Because you know how they're funny about that. They want the current job. But that doesn't make any sense. Because Regina Clementine... Her last name wouldn't have been Clementine if she married him. Right? So, what else am I missing from that? Maybe she'll come up in this. Beth Clementine. Okay, so she doesn't come up on anything. What about New Edson? Label. Because they were music, right? I don't know. That's not coming up for me. The Old Rugged Cross. A popular hymn. Oh, okay. Well, nope. That's not going to come up. New Edson label. I don't know. That's not super helpful. Not super helpful there. But we'll keep working on it. So Regina Clementine's email from 6piecesprodigy.us to genealogygenie@prodigy.us. This is all the information I have on Regina Clementine. Oh, she used to be something else. So Regina Clementine used to be Salazar. So before she got married. So I have to update that. Because she was Regina Salazar before she got married. From New Orleans, and her husband Stuart Clementine. Oh yeah, I had that. Okay. She wrote me about a month ago. Apparently the Roottrees lawyers went after her since. By the time I received her letter and called her, she told me she couldn't cooperate anymore. Her husband, who was a police officer, oh, so he has a different job now. That makes more sense. So she lives in New Orleans. Husband's a police officer. Thought he might be a Roottree, but he was estranged from his family, didn't have any proof. Stuart's mother is Mary Beth Clementine. She was a singer. She was a big proponent of adoption. She came to Butler a few times, and Regina said they spent a lot of time at Miracle Church. She sent me a photo to prove who she is. Butler. She came to Butler County, so let's look her up that way. Mary Beth. Okay, so Mary Beth Clementine came to Butler County a few times and played religious hymns at the Miracle Congregation's church. She's mentioned 2 times, though, from the first visit in 1949 was more substantial. Miracle Congregation welcomes Mary Beth Clementine with open arms. The article mentions the church leader was moved when he heard her recording of his favorite hymns, His Eye on the Sparrow, and reached out to her personally. His Eye is on the Sparrow holds a very special meaning to me. As you know, I had a very difficult upbringing, and it's no secret that my own eyes have always been a source of struggle. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, no, we did know that. Has sight issues. Mary Beth came in 1949. If God can find the way to watch over every sparrow, he can certainly watch over those made in his image. My family's fortune does me no good of a man of the Lord. It's much best spent spreading his word, and I felt a kinship with Mary Beth ever since I heard her voice. When I learned her personal story, I knew I had to help her in any way I can. The Bible is full of adoptions, from Moses to Esther. Spending your life taking care of those helpless to help themselves is incredibly noble. She and her son are welcome to stay in our guest home. The second visit was a few years later in 1953. The article mentions her first visit was a massive success and an insistence of Miracle's congregation she returned for a encore performance. It also mentions the unusual circumstances of her second son's adoption has prevented her from touring recently, but doesn't clarify. Yeah, because she gave birth to the other one. So that's why. It doesn't clarify because she kept popping out kids. I guess that was helpful. I guess I should look up her second son, Mark Clementine, and see if he comes up as anything. Maybe not, though. Unless he also got into... Oh, there we go. Crocodile Clementine. Oh, what's up with these people and these nicknames? I just want to know. So Mark Clementine is listed on the website, the infamy list. It's a list of criminals. So he's a criminal now? Although Mark's nickname implies he hails from Florida or Australia, Mark is listed as being from Los Angeles. There's a very small note about him being the basket baby of 1950, but everything else comes from his adulthood. We have to look that up. Basket baby of 1950. So was he adopted? Was he lost? What does that mean? He lost his job in 1975 as a pilot for a regional airline after he tried to board the wrong airline's plane. He was drunk. He was charged with trespassing and assault. 1982, he was arrested for smuggling animals over Canadian and Mexican borders for an illegal reptile supplier in Los Angeles. He was successful for the first 4 years, but was caught when he tried to make an emergency landing in Portland after he was bitten on the foot by a crocodile. Apparently, the Portland Telegraph is credited by giving him his nickname. His mugshot from this incident has been added to your photos. In 93, he was released on parole, but his freedom didn't last long. He was arrested in 1994 in San Diego for violating it in an attempt to visit his daughter's graduation. So he has at least one kid. In San Diego. He famously punched the principal, a guy named Billy Sims. This incident received national press. Okay. I mean, I don't know what to make of that. Other than going back to this wall. So Mark has another picture. He has a daughter. And we have no idea who she is. But for his career, is criminal an option? Can we just put criminal? Is that not a thing? He was a pilot at some point, but oh, well. I like how they take pilot as his career and not criminal, even though he is now a criminal. All right. Oh, we locked in some folks. And a couple spouses, so that's nice. We got someone's spouse wrong, though. I thought his name was Sterling. Man, so that man's name is not Sterling because he didn't lock in. All right, so Sterling Clementine. Let's see if we can figure out who you are, sir, because you're not coming up for me. And it's throwing me off because you should be. It just throws me off so that I can't find her husband. I thought his name was Sterling, but clearly his name is not Sterling. Does New Edison mean anything to us? Okay, New Edison is a small record label in Los Angeles that existed for a few years in the 40s. It raced to release cover records of songs that were gaining popularity. According to the website, The History of Recorded Sound, it was named after its founder, Sterling Edison. Oh, his name is Sterling Edison. But how do you get the last name Clementine? The biggest claim to fame is being sued by the estate of Thomas Edison and Edison Records versus Edsel. You can find a few references of New Edison and Mary Beth Clementine on sites about old records. One collector says the Holy Grail is a re-release of the old Rugged Cross and says the first edition was originally published before she legally changed her name. Another site claims the police had to be called to New Edison Records after the owner, Sterling Edison, got in a physical altercation in public, leading to a divorce. There's no cited sources or evidence. Okay, so that's not super helpful. We could look up Sterling Edison, because I don't know how we got Clementine as last name then. And then Edison Records. V. Edsel. So let's try that. Sterling Edison. Oh no, that's not going to help me. Okay, well I don't know then, because it's... Okay, Edison Records, one of the first record labels named after Thomas Edison. The history of the company seems very unimportant except for a potential lawsuit filed in 1949, Edison Records versus Edsel. A website about lawsuits mentions this is a fun case because the name of the lawsuit was actually the biggest problem for the person being sued. A record producer who called himself Edison was immediately outed as not actually being named Edison. Edsel was a German last name, and at the time of founding the company, the U.S. was at war with Germany. The company's founder immediately settled to try to get the case to go away, but the damage was done. I don't know. That's a weird one. That's a weird one. Because it's like, I don't know what that would look like for him. They legally changed her name, so she wasn't Clementine before. So let's try, because people keep changing their names like regularly. We have her Quaker name, right? So, we meant to look up Basket Baby. That's something that they didn't make clear. Basket Baby of 1950. Few sites about true stories focus on around religion state that in 1950 a gospel singer named Mary once found herself in a real-life baby Moses situation. Apparently she was a rather prominent supporter of the concept of adoption. Someone tried to test how much. They left the baby on her doorstep in a basket. According to the site, she adopted him without question and raised her as her own son. Though it wasn't in national news, in many circles, he became known as the Basket Baby and even went on tour with her as he grew up. None of the websites state who the woman or the baby were, likely to prevent people from looking into either the people too closely. From context, as Mary Beth Clementine, who would later be shunned due to her personal life, and her son Mark, who would later be known as Crocodile Clementine. That's not super helpful. I want to go back to Crocodile Clementine. Something we're missing there. Oh, it would help if I could spell. That would be really helpful. Now, he was in the Portland Telegraph. Maybe that can help me. Portland Telegraph is your run-of-the-mill newspaper based out of Portland, Oregon. They have a lot of websites with dry statistics about subscribers, issues, and awards. But they added a periodical for me. Let's try him again. Crocodile Clementine. His first major arrest, he was flying weekly between Los Angeles, Juarez, and Vancouver in a small plane. His flights were very low, literally under the radar. He was only caught because he was bit by a crocodile on the leg and tried to call in a mayday because he was losing blood. He tried to tell them he was in a crop duster that somehow cut his leg on a loose piece of metal in the cockpit. But his story seemed very odd, and controllers quickly alerted the police without informing him. When he landed, he was arrested. I mean, that's helpful, I guess. Now, something else they said about him was he hit a principal named Billy Sims. So that's helpful, I guess. Billy Sims was the principal of Sandstone Canyon High School, who had his 15 minutes of fame in 1994 when he was punched by Crocodile Clementine at a graduation ceremony. Pretty much every news organization, from Trustworthy to tabloids, seemed to have their own take on the altercation. It wasn't the punch that captured people's attention. It was Billy Sims' matter-of-fact responses to the threat and his comments afterwards, which are heard in some now famous audio clips from someone recording the ceremony. Billy saw Mark hop onto the graduation stage and says, "Sir, you'll want to sit down and we'll have a problem." At that point, he was sucker punched in the face. Billy only seemed slightly dazed and said, "Okay, sir, I guess we have a problem." Clementine tried to throw another punch, but Sims described it as anticipated and performed a maneuver that spectators described as a wrestling move mixed with a backwards somersault, which immediately landed both men on the floor, with Sims straddling Clementine, keeping him neutralized. That was helpful, but then it wasn't. So let's try, since they said it got a lot of press, maybe it's 2 M's, for Sims. There we go. They did a small piece, tried a different perspective. Not only did they interview Sims' wife, Carla, as well as multiple staff members at the school, but they hunt down Colleen Webb, Mark's ex-wife. Well, there we go. So that's somebody we know. Webb. What was her name again? Colleen. So he was a pilot. Well, I don't know if he was a pilot. Where's his mugshot? Do we have it? Yeah. Okay. So that's the ex-wife, but we know he has a daughter for sure. According to the section with Colleen, she and him met when he was working for an airline. She worked in an airport newsstand. He was a drinker and had wild mood swings. When he was charged with the assault of another pilot in 1975, lost his job, then they got divorced. At the time, she was pregnant with their second daughter, and she felt the need to get out before things got worse. She left him and moved to San Diego to live with her sister and told her oldest the dad had to fly planes for the Army. She raised them both herself, although she never went through the trouble of changing their names legally. They went by the Webb name so nobody would connect them to the last father. Now, someone else probably did an article. They said he had a lot of news coverage. So let's try the gossip rag, Pico T. Pico T magazine's kind of sleazy. But they're not published to publish a few more details. So Billy Sims was once arrested for throwing a Mazel Tov cocktail at a company that was found to be testing their products on animals. According to paperwork, Crocodile Clementine's bail was paid for by Terestito Jacobson. Why is someone paying his bail? And that last name seems familiar. Jacobson. I think we have somebody in the original family tree with that last name. Pico T interviewed other students that were going to the event to see if anyone knew anything. Oh, Mary. So is her name? So his oldest daughter is Mary. Now, is she Webb or is she Clementine? Because, see, that's going to be an issue. I want to say she's Webb, but it's so hard to tell. So hard to tell. We're going to search Mary Webb since she said she didn't use the dad's last name. And Mary Webb in San Diego has a website called Webb on the Web. Apparently, it's a personal travel diary that also doubles as an advertisement for her travel agency. There are descriptions of her services, including booking flights and cruises. All of them seem to involve extremely niche audiences. It seems Mary is #1 agent when it comes to booking spiritual vacations aboard ghost ships and in specific hotel rooms that are said to be haunted. She's also dedicated a section for more traditional modern cruises that cater to special groups such as fans of band boys. In her diary entry, she talks about trips she's personally taken and has used that as an opportunity to feature descriptions of amenities and excursions the ships offer. There are pictures of ships, hotels, landmarks, and places she's visited, as well as a picture of Mary herself with the ship in the background. All right, Mary. Where's the picture? So this is Mary Webb, in front of an alleged ghost ship from the 1800s. Company called Corporate Composition Photography. That might be important. So she's a travel agent, I guess is her job now. Because you know how they are. The board wants to know exactly who you are today. So she's a travel agent. But she's married to someone. Probably. She's married to someone, probably. Let's search. What are we searching? Corporate composition photography. It's a photography studio in San Diego. It no longer exists. It mentions photography in some IRC chat logs. They've been archived since 93. One of them from 96 said Val, the former head of photography from Corporate Composition Photography, did a Q&A with their users about taking pictures for promotional materials. Most of the questions and answers are pretty technical. They not only seem irrelevant, but go over your head. So is Val a part of that? Is Val her sister? About LBT. What is that? Oh, you get a variety of results. Oh, I don't know, babe. She has a lot of results. Okay, let's go back because that's not helping me. What else stands out in this? Because sometimes it's something we have to search. Because I don't know what that acronym stands for. It's going to take us way too long to go through that. What's telephoto? Telephoto is a photography magazine. Okay. We get a lot of periodicals. Let's try her again. Let's try Mary Webb. Oh, nope. That's not the right answer. What about corporate composition photography? I don't know then. But somebody named Val. Okay, let's go back to LBP. There was a lot of combinations, but I mean, only so many are relevant. We know they don't live in Louisiana. It's not about blood pressure, back pain, businesses. Now, photography would make sense as a business. Anything with photography is worth searching. Not related to what we're looking for. There's another one. Lincoln Baby Photography. There we go. Lincoln Baby Photography seems like a solid lead as it mentions Val, an award-winning photographer on the page. It's a business in Beacon, New York, and on the site it has a picture of a baby and a camera captioned Cal Lincoln searching for his namesake. Again, he takes after his father, Val. That's interesting. Val Lincoln. Because Lincoln's the baby's last name. So we have to assume that that's Val's last name. So let's see Val Lincoln. Does she exist? The only Val Lincoln... Oh, no. That's not helpful. Let's search her another way. She does photography. So let's try Val Lincoln in photo... There we go. Val Lincoln's featured in telephoto. The cover, as well as portions of articles, been added to evidence. So someone has a baby named Cal Lincoln. Val Lincoln has a baby named Cal Lincoln. So let's see if we can find that. We're going to grab this. So this is a photography magazine. Val Lincoln... He won SEPSI Award for photojournalism. Val got his start in high school. He took a photography class when he couldn't decide what he wanted to do. After graduating, he tried to pivot to landscape photography, but didn't have any passion for it. Most people... Wow. So... Val Lincoln is a guy, and he has a son named Cam Lincoln. He photographed Lisa Clementine, who lost an arm during Operation Desert Sabri. She was in a vehicle that had to pull over when it was partially destroyed. Val says, I ran into Lisa after her surgery and took the picture until she shipped out. I kept finding excuses to go back and take more pictures. Guess it was fate because that picture won me an award, got me into your magazine, also led to my engagement. Earlier this week, she agreed to become Mrs. Lincoln. Oh, okay. Well, good on you, I guess. In terms of the tree, though, I don't know where that puts you. You know what I mean? I don't think Mary's the oldest child. I think Mary's the youngest child. I think Lisa's older. And they should have the last name Clementine, because we see Clementine, she goes by Lisa Clementine. So even though the mom may have called them Webb, their last names are still Clementine. So she's still a travel agent, because we confirmed that. She was in the military. Is military an option? And then she's married to Val Lincoln. Or she's about to get married to Val Lincoln. Or she is married to Val Lincoln because they have a baby. And then the baby is Cam Lincoln. Right? And he's just a baby. So something is not locking here. So I'm missing something. Oh, his last name is not Clementine. His last name was Edsel, which he tried to use as Edison, but it was German. Do we have a picture of him? I'm missing his photo. That's going to be a problem. He has to be in this original picture. So Mary Beth's original husband, we need him in here. Get in there, sir. I'm missing something here. Let's look up Lisa Clementine again, now that we have the right name for her. Because I think maybe the career is wrong. Lisa. Okay, so nope, that's not a great way to find her. Maybe Lisa Lincoln, since she's married now. Oh, there we go. Lisa Lincoln, according to the military website, you find is an amputee who lost her limb in Desert Storm. She runs a support group for veterans in Beacon, New York. She's listed as a professor at West Point, a military college. She teaches classes that contribute to environmental engineering majors. Her short biography on the staff page mentions she had a passion for the military from a very young age, erroneously believing a family member was an Air Force pilot. While she later found out that was untrue, her passion remained and she joined ROTC in high school. From then, she enlisted. Oh, so she's a professor now. But she was in the military at some point. So I think we have finished this line. I don't know why it's not locking it in, but we did do something with that line. So I think we're good, minus whatever her last name is. But that line... Fidelity 2, I think, is done. I need 4 people to lock it in, though. That's what's messing me up. Now, if we assume that Elias had an affair, so this would be Elias Roottree, because he's the only one who could have done it in 21. And he was the first president. I need a picture of him, though. So... I don't know if I want to start this here. I think we got a good ways into Roottreemania. We finished the family tree update. I don't even know what to do with that. And I think we did Fidelity 2 completely. But I think before I start Fidelity 1 and these 5 pieces of evidence, I'm just going to save here. Because we've done a lot. This time I'm having a much easier time than I did the first time. I think because we already have so much evidence. And it's really just filling in a few more pieces going backwards. But we pretty much know where everyone falls in the tree, which is really helpful. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Roottreemania?